On this day in 1991, March 3rd, 1991, Los Angeles police officers beat Rodney King within an inch of his life. The world watched it, and it shocked us all. This happened after a high-speed chase on I-210. It was all caught on camera. That brutal beating, 68 seconds of amateur video, and the emotions from four officers being acquitted set the city on fire with rage. It sparked 5 days of rioting in LA, and decades later, we still have black and brown people dying at the hands of police officers throughout the country. As federal legislation that would reform policing is on ice, on hold in the Senate. The question is, what gives? Why can't it be done? Why can't police reform be accomplished? Joining me now is Rodney King's attorney, activist John Burris, and Bernard Kinsey, a good friend to me, whose work included rebuilding L.A. in the aftermath of the Rodney King riots. Gentlemen, it's good for you to join us this hour. Mr. Burris, I want to begin with you. You represented Rodney King. Looking back on that moment, what is it that you want America to know about how we need to get to a place called police reform in this country?
Well, first off, I would say that Rodney King, the manner in which it took place, was really the beginning, the first time that the general population had an opportunity to see the kind of brutality that was inflicted by the police on the African-American community. And so over the last 30-some years, going up to George Floyd, there's been a steady progression in the knowledge base of the general population about police brutality, ultimately culminating with what happened with George Floyd. But there has been a lot of efforts in police reform. You may not know this, but I've been involved in the city of Oakland where we transformed the police department and through action of lawsuits. Other departments have did the same thing. They've done that in LA as well. The problem on it, it does not deal with the issues of police shootings. And they seem to have not stopped in any real way. But the beatings that occurred with Rodney King in certain cities, you don't really see that much of those anymore just because of the activism that police communities have had and certainly various lawyers. In outlying community, you do have still kind of brutality that exists, but certainly a lot of positive efforts have been made toward this effort. And even after George Floyd, over 30 cities enacted different kinds of reforms. Probably the most significant was the elimination of qualified immunity in some states. Now, it is true, it is still fundamentally present, and it's one of the great obstacles we have in fighting these cases. But I've been involved in I represent over 1,000 people in police brutality cases, and I know that improvements are being made. We have more criminal prosecution, not always with the best results, but we are having them.
All right, Bernard, let me bring you in because while Mr. Burris is talking about the legal aspects of it and having to fight for reform and getting it done, you were there in the aftermath of the verdict that acquitted the four officers who savagely beat Rodney King. You were there along with then MLB Commissioner Peter Uberoth, and together the two of you started Rebuild LA to bring unity back to a divided city. How far have we come in not only seeing the rebuilding of LA, but also repairing the breach in terms of racial divisions in this country?
Well, first of all, Kelly and Attorney Burris, first of all, good to see you, both of you. What Attorney Burris is talking about is the beginning of a long trajectory of trying to change the 18,000 police departments that really over-police the Black community. And I'll start with this. We need attorneys like Brother Burris to go after him. But now we have something else called a video. And the video has changed how policing takes place in this country. And in my lifetime, I'm not sure we're going to see enough reform to make a difference because it's all tied up in the notion of citizenship in America. Black people are not full citizens in this country. And until we're full citizens, we're never going to be able to stay out of the racial profiling that makes up a lot of the stops that take place every day in America. So going back to Rebuild LA, 1992, we lost 2,000 buildings, $2 billion, and 43 people killed over that horrific weekend. And frankly, we made a big start on it. We brought $380 million into South Los Angeles. There's a lot more to go, but if you drive down Crenshaw, Western, Slauson, any of those streets, it's hard to find where the riots were. So we believe that you need business, government, and the community all working together. You need all three of them. Generally speaking, you only get the community and government. But where the real engine of growth in this country is in private business. And that's where we were able, with Rebuild LA, we put 33 supermarkets in South Los Angeles in 2.5 years. You know, we rebuilt 74 service stations. We had 15 different training programs. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but the reality is that it's an arc that we're on, and that arc is slow, but it does bend toward justice. And I think we, people of color, have to continue to vote. First of all, nobody should stop us from voting, even with the voter suppression that takes place in this country. And I tell all my brothers and sisters, if it takes all day to vote, then spend the day. Because if you don't have that franchise, you're not America. And that's what voter suppression is all about.
Gentlemen, I've got about a minute left, and both of you are so important to the Rodney King case and its aftermath. One of the things that Rodney King stated is that I just want to know why we can't all get along. How can we get to that point of all getting along in this racially polarized environment that we find ourselves living in right now? I've got about 30 seconds left. I'll let both of you share your insights.
I'll take 10 seconds if you don't mind. If I respect you and you don't respect me, we can never have a relationship. And that's the problem in America. White America does not respect Black America because they don't believe we did anything. And part of what we have to do is to tell our stories of accomplishment and achievement. And that will begin to negotiate a better situation between Blacks and whites in this country.
I think it's important, though. You have to change the disparity income gap, because as long as we're talking about African Americans at the bottom and other communities don't want to give anything up, you got to close that gap. Otherwise, you will never have the kind of respect that we're talking about here. You got to have economic parity as well as the enforcement of the civil rights laws and allow people an opportunity to not only make money, but they have to vote too. As they say, elections matter. And that is the biggest issue I can see in terms of the economic gap, enforcement of the civil rights laws, and of course, voting regularly and often.
Good job.
Gentlemen, you know I appreciate you both and respect you both so much. Love the work that you're doing for our community. And thank you for spending the time to talk to us on this important moment in history as we look back on Rodney King. Rodney King's attorney, John Burris, and activist Bernard Kinsey, whose work included rebuilding LA in the aftermath of the Rodney King riots. Gentlemen, love you both, admire you both. Thank you for being with us here on The World Tonight.